Jane Lead was a woman from East Anglia, particularly from the county of Norfolk. She was born in 1624. She came from a minor gentry family, so not from the top end of the elite, but from the lower end of the elite. She was one of a number of children of Hammond Ward. And essentially, I've suggested that her life can be divided into three separate phases. The period from her birth until she became a widow in 1670, in which she is more or less in complete obscurity. The period from 1670 to 1695, when she undergoes a religious transformation, we can quite clearly see a trajectory there. And a final period when she attains a modicum of fame, but not so much in England, but more abroad, from 1696 until her death in 1704, which coincides with the public emergence of the Philadelphian Society that takes its name from the Book of Revelation. In addition, Lead is one of the most prolific of all female authors in the long 18th century, so that includes the late 17th century. Some women wrote prolifically in manuscript, but what distinguishes Lead is that a lot of her work was published. And that's why we know a lot more about her than her contemporary Anne Bathurst, for example, who tended to keep a private profile. Her ideas are initially a mixture of Puritanism, a more radical Puritanism than her own parents' moderate Puritanism. It's a Puritanism that may veer to what hostile commentators might call antinomianism, with very strong ideas about Christ's role in washing away sin, with an influence of Tobias Crisp, and then increasingly the influence of Jacob Boehme, probably for the mediation of John Portage and his associate Thomas Bromley, which leads into very interesting discussions about the fourth person of the Trinity, which is a female figure, Sophia, symbolizing wisdom, and then eventually the evolution into the Philadelphian Society, which brings in the dimension of universal salvation, with particular influence from her son-in-law, Francis Lee, who is a major reader of Origen. It's not that there is a clear set of doctrines that she sticks to. It's an evolving theology, and it's difficult to know how much is her own idea and how much is an idea that's coming to her from those around her. But essentially, we can say significant amount of time after her death, she becomes incorporated within a tradition of universal salvation, and that her ideas are interpreted and configured within that tradition. In terms of the spread of her writings, we're very fortunate in that a lot of correspondence was intercepted. They were being monitored by agents of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and we have very long records, not of her, but of some of her associates, giving statements of faith to the Archbishop of Canterbury. And from this, we can reconstruct a very detailed social network where there are various levels of secrecy. They all take on various extra names. They're not code, they are partly code names, but they're also religious names in accordance with the Book of Revelation of the new name. And that network helps spread her ideas, many of which, has to be emphasized, her writings are translated into German by Lof Fischer of Utrecht, and they find receptive communities of readers, not just in Utrecht, but in Amsterdam and in many German-speaking territories. And there are German Philadelphians in particular. And all the way through to North America, to Johannes Kelpius, the hermit of the Wissahickon, and other communities. And we can see this in the correspondence. So there's a big transcontinental, transnational spread there. Female-centered spirituality, universal salvation, apocalyptic interpretation, and the privileging of vision within a climate of communities who are already receptive to it. That's the attraction. But it needs to be emphasized not so much in England and more so in continental Europe and some communities in North America.